If there's just one thing that I like the most about pro audio stuff, it's reverb. I'm obsessed with reverb. If you ask me what I want for Christmas, I will say anything that has to do with reverb. I've collected rack units. I've made spring reverb units myself. I've made my own algorithms for reverb. I love reverb. And today, we're going to give a 4-point test to the best reverb pedal I've ever heard in my entire life, and that is the Empress. To start things off, we're going to go through all the modes of the Empress Reverb, and I'm going to use my trusty Blue Ridge acoustic with a Fishman pickup. So first up is Concert Hall. Now we're going to go to Modern Hall. I'm going to turn the mix up a little bit more. Now we're going to move on to plate. I should point out that thing 1 is either pre-delay time or modulation, and thing 2 is early reflection level in these initial presets. Now we got Bright Spring, which is sort of in the Fender Twin Reverb realm, and these things affect rattle. So let's try it out. This is a dark spring. And this is an overdriven spring. And this is room. Rooms are almost always underwhelming to me in reverb units. And while this one doesn't sound like a room or something that's using convolution reverb, it does sound quite nice on higher end tones. And here we are with Sparkle, everybody's favorite, and one that I kind of always loathe because it always sounds so cheap unless you put another reverb unit in front of it. The Empress does it well, but this is still no exception. This one's a little more interesting. It's called Glummer. Thing 1 is octave down blend, and thing 2 is octave up blend. Are you ready? The modulation reverb is my favorite on this entire unit. This is the modulation rate, and this is the modulation level, which I almost always keep towards the bottom because the reverb algorithm here is so incredible. Let's hear it. Whoa. Modulation 2 has a chorus along with it, and I've noticed that if I tweak it at just the right setting, I can almost get a harmonic out of things. It definitely removed some of the low mid-range. The third modulation preset is a flanged verb. I'm not really that sold on this one. This is ambient swell. It basically detects the note you're hitting on whatever instrument you're using and then increases the attack to fade it in. Also has some nice modulation to it. This is the second ambient swell, and it has an octave up on the Thing 2 knob, which kind of gives it that sparkle effect. This is a single tap delay. The second delay is a blendable delay that actually allows you to remove the reverb altogether. It's delay. Yay! The final delay is filtered feedback delay, and the low and high knobs actually allow you to edit the sound of the feedback, and then these are your standard delay time and feedback knobs. The first in the reverse category is reverse with decay. The second one in the reverse category is called reverb and stop, and I actually like this one because it's a controllable granulator with the Thing 2 knob. The final is reverse delay, and that one has a pretty cool effect as well. This is Ghost, and it's a pretty bizarre effect. Thing 1 controls the modulation rate, and Thing 2 controls the resonance. The second Ghost mode is called Casper, and while it is supposedly friendlier, I think it's actually creepier. The first lo-fi preset is called 50s Radio, and Thing 1 controls the delay level, and Thing 2 controls the dirtiness. The second lo-fi preset is called Warble. Guess what it does? The final preset is called Beer. Why? I don't know. If you have any experience with synthesizers or granulation or VST effects or any of that stuff, none of this is going to seem that impressive. If you're just a guitarist playing in a band, these will probably seem cool to play with. This one's called Glitch. So yeah, not really super useful or incredible sounding. The second in the beer category is gated reverb. It's really not that great of a gated reverb. Again, I'm assuming this beer category is just sort of extra stuff they wanted to throw in. And the final beer preset is called Destroyer Pad. Not that useful from the pedal, but that could actually be cool if you use the control voltage input with something else. For phase 2 of my reverb test, I want to use a percussive instrument that has no attack and no vibrato, meaning that the notes are always going to be the exact same, which means that it gives the reverb a chance to feed back if it's going to. So let's try the kalimba with my absolute favorite preset on this unit and see how it does. Wow. In phase 3 of the reverb test, I'm going to clamp the kalimba keys entirely. And what that allows me to do is only hear a tick. And when I only hear a tick, I can hear what's going on in the algorithm. I could hear the filter or the delay or anything that's happening in that algorithm. I could kind of hear that tick being reproduced throughout. And if I can't, that means I have a really, really solid reverb. That's really incredible. I cannot even tell what's happening in that algorithm. And I've never heard that in a pedal before. Every pedal I've ever heard, you could always hear what's happening in the algorithm. And for phase 4, I'm just going to use a cheap synthesizer, and the Volca FM is my favorite cheap synthesizer at the moment. Nice. I was kind of expecting this to use more power, but it only uses 9 volts and 1/3 of an amp, which should easily fit into most people's power supplies on their pedal boards. You have stereo ins, stereo outs. The control port. The control port has a lot of functions. It could be a control port. It could be a CV port for either pedals or modules. Oh, and you're not seeing this wrong. They actually have an SD card slot for the firmware, which they update pretty habitually. And you don't actually have to go through each mode on stage. You could set presets, which pretty much load up everything, including the knob changes the way that you want them. This thing currently retails at $449, which I believe is an incredible value. I'm not even going to entertain comparing it to other reverb pedals in the price range, like the Big Sky or Black Hole, because this thing outclasses it in every way and then has a bunch of extras on top. If I have to think of something to compare it to, I'm thinking of giant rack units like the Orville or H8000, things approaching $6,000. This thing takes your money quite far. What we have is brilliant algorithms, lush-sounding VCAs, and you can tell that there's just been an extraordinary amount of care and time put into making this. And for that reason, it is the best reverb pedal I've ever played with in my life. Also, since I'm fanboying so hard about this thing, I want to point out to my followers that at the time of making this video, I've never had any contact with Empress. They didn't send me anything free. They didn't send me a discount. They didn't ask me to make a review. I haven't even talked to their support. I have no idea who these guys are. I just know that they've made an incredible product that I'm really glad I took the chance on buying. As always, if you like what you saw, please subscribe to my channel and maybe even share it with your friends. If you want me to feature anything in the future or have any ideas, let me know in the comments. Cheers.